Hello and welcome to Knitting Nook. Now, here on C is for Crone. Sorry, I always screw that up. But anyways, I'm Ray. I am the C in C is for Crone. I'm the Crone in the C is for Crone. As you saw from the preview for the summer knitting project, I plan on using this giant ball of red Heart Comfort yarn, like over 1,800 yards. And so this is the official video on how to make this shawl. The shawl itself is a converted knit pattern of this square-bottomed crocheted shawl. I'm addicted to making shawls. I have had to stop myself on many occasions. I kind of find any excuse to make them. I don't need that many. But I decided what I wanted to do with this cardinal red yarn, this very, very red yarn, which is looking like an orange red, but is more of a red, but yes, on the camera, that's kind of what cardinal red is. Anyways, I want to use this whole thing up and make a big shawl, so that I can curl up in here, because I made a bigger version of that, and it's nice. It's warm, it's just nice. So, but I wanted to see what this would look like in knitting, and I have done that in a practice. And so I'm looking forward to using up this. I'm stash busting. My summer projects are stash busters, if that's what you're looking for. Or if you're just looking for a big shawl, that's fine. So, as I suggested before, circular needles for this project, because you're going to cast on 50 stitches to begin with. At least 1,000 yards. I'm using, what is this one? A 6mm US 10. I got them from Walmart for this project. As I said in the preview, use what you want to use. Just bear in mind, if you go smaller, you're probably going to possibly need more yarn, and if you go larger, you're going to maybe need less yarn. I would suggest, especially since this is knitting, and if you are a first-time person, especially if you're a first-time person, nothing fuzzy. Keep it smooth. Keep it in Red Heart Super Saver, Red Heart Comfort. This is not the softest yarn in the world. This is one of the reasons why I went looking for projects to use this up. Super Saver does soften up in the wash. I don't know. I've never used this before, so I don't know how it's going to react. We'll be washing it with darks. Do not want to pink up the new t-shirt. And I don't throw anything in the dryer. Let's see. We're going to turn this because I am getting a little bit too much in and out, flashy flash. So, anyways, speed things up here. This is Red Heart Comfort number 4, using a 6mm. Use whatever needle size works for you. If you like those big jumbo needles, do this project with that. Just bear in mind that if you definitely go up inside your 50 stitches, it's going to go wider and wider and wider. If you're using a smaller yarn, your 50 stitches is going to start, and you're going to get, instead of a flat bottom, you're probably going to get more of a triangular, the regular triangular. So this is a version of my crocheted flat bottom shawl. We will be putting an edge on it, maybe. I haven't decided. This is a knit along, and I suggest having fun. I have to find my end. I managed to yank it out. I found this Red Heart Comfort is a pain. Sometimes they're jammed in. So I'm going to pause the video, no waste time, while I search for my end. Okay, hello, welcome back. My camera turned itself off while I was trying to find my end. So my red yarn, I've discovered, looks very much more scarlet on camera than it's a much bluer yarn on mint. So I'm going to pause this and I'm going to angle the camera because I think I figured out how to do the tutorial without, so that you can see what I'm doing from the front side instead of the back side. So I'm going to play with this for a little bit and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Still working some things out, but here we go. So what you want to do with your yarn is, the first thing you want to do is make a slip knot. And I don't know how to do this without having all my fingers in the way. So you got your slip knot. I've got a bit of yarn in my lap here, so okay. Insert your slip knot onto your hook, and you get to decide with your circular needles which is the working side and which is the holding side. Okay, so I've put that on that side, so this is now my holding side. Okay, so we slide our needle up in through. Don't come off because we're casting on. And okay, now when working with circular needles, it's important to make sure that the yarn is hanging at the back here, because otherwise it gets up in your project, and the bigger the project goes, the more of a mess it gets hard. It'll just for pulling and working with. So casting on one. So now we've got two loops on there. And you want 50 all together. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, and then do a count again. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, I'm just going to shift a bit here. Get this all over on my crone bag there. And so we'll do another 10. Remember, we need 50 all together. We're casting on. So it's up, in, around, through, and on. Up, in, around, through, and on. Up, in, around, through, and on. Up, in, through, around, and on. Okay. It looks like I'm going to still have to play with camera angles. I thought for a minute there I could actually wrap my hands around the camera. So how many stitches do I have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to pause this. You continue to cast on your 50 stitches. Get yourself a pen and paper if that makes it easier, if it makes it easier to keep track of how many stitches you've got, and I'll be right back. Okay, I think I got it. Maybe not. Where you can see. I have to watch my hands a little bit more. I'm right-handed, so the left hand for me is the holding needle, the right hand is the working needle. And remember, you go up, wrap around, pull through, and on. And I have about 25 stitches on there. I have about 25 stitches on there. And so yes, I will be pausing shortly here so that I can finish up my 50. And you'll probably be sitting there with your circular needles going, you know, that's fitting on there pretty nice. I could potentially do that on a regular set of needles, but you just got to remember, knitting stretches as you work on it. These will spread out, and we are doing an increase to get a nice slant on the on this shawl, because it is square bottomed, but we're not making a rectangular shawl. We're making a square bottomed triangular shawl. And so if you're just new and you found this is casting on. You slide up in the front of your stitch, you wrap your yarn around, pull up through, and put it on your holding needle. And that gives you your starting row. And as I said, it was 50 stitches, 50 on there. And you will notice, unlike my crochet videos, I will probably talk less while I'm working until I get going, just for the simple reason is I am concentrating. So I'm going to pause here, because I've got pretty much about 30 stitches on there, and get the last 20 plus on here so that we can get on to row number 1. Okay, so I now have 50 stitches on here, and you can see it's spreading out a little bit on me. So there's no necessary need to like turn this really at this point. We got it on, we've got holding, we've got our working, and yes, you probably will have, this is brand new one, so it's giving me grief. Remember, yarn at the back, not in front of your string, this plastic string here at the back. And the first row is just a simple knit across, and so you will have 50 stitches when you get to the end of there. So okay, so a knit stitch is through, wrap around, up through, and you pull off. So now we're doing the little dance of going from our working side, our holding side, to our working side. Up through, wrap around, and pull off. If you know how to knit and you're following along, just finish row 1 and we'll get back to it here. Wrap around, pull off. There, up through, wrap around, pull through, and off. Up through, wrap around, pull through, and off. Up through, wrap around, whoops, pull through, and off. Up through, wrap around, pull through, and off. Up through, wrap around, pull through, and off. Up through, wrap around, pull through, and off. So continue that straight across until you get to the end, and I will catch up with you there. Okay. Okay, and I'm back now. What I noticed as I was going along, and don't worry about if it feels a little tight. I often cast on tighter than I should when I'm doing stuff. It will not affect this. It just, if you do it, the tighter you hold your yarn and more rigid you hold your needles, the harder it is to slip the needle into your loop. And I knit funny. My mom always said I knitted funny. She's the one who taught me how to knit, but I am able to balance on my finger this way to hold it. So if you're an experienced knitter following along, please just follow the pattern. Feel free to use your pen and paper to copy down the project, and as we go along, and to take notes and keep track of your counts. And what's basically going to happen as we do the increase row is up through, and it's every second row as we go. Once we get started, then you'll notice that it is getting wider, and it's one increase on either end. So we go up by 2. So we start out with 50, then it's 52, 54, 56. It should work that way anyways. Okay. Okay, so now we're finished row number 1. Row number 2 is exactly the same as row number 1. This is the only time that you'll do your knit stitch because we're working on a garter pattern here, a garter stitch pattern. This is the only time that you will not increase, is right at the beginning, the first 2 stitches. So there we go. And you saw how easy, hopefully you saw how easy it was to just switch hands. So we're knitting again. There we go. So this is the second row. Later on, when we get to the purl row, we will, which is not for a bit yet, because part of what we're doing is we're creating a border on as we go, because with purl I find it rolls, and this will keep your work flat. Okay, so we're just knitting this straight across. Feel free to pause and finish your row, and then come back and to get the next row. And I hope you guys can see what I'm doing more than my hands. Maybe it is just better to do it this way. Crochet is just such a different technique than knitting. I haven't had a chance to sit and watch anybody else knit on the channel, on YouTube, pardon me. Okay, that's part of the problem, is I'm up on the table. Yeah, that would be the other thing, is usually when I am knitting, if I can't have it straight in front of me, I pull from the right when I'm knitting, and when I crochet I pull from the left. Okay, so I'm going to pause here so I can finish up this row quickly. So we're at 10 minutes already, and I will catch. Okay, now we've finished row 2. And at the end of row 2, you should still have 50 stitches, 50. Okay, and now Just straightening this a little bit. It sometimes will curl a little bit as you're using these needles, but you can still, as you pull it up onto your holding needle, it straightens itself out. It's very easy to do that. So now row 3 is the increase row. So to increase, you can either pause here and go back and watch I think it's the first or the second video that I did in Knitting Nook. There is an increase. It might, actually I don't remember what video it is, but there's only about 5 videos on there right at the moment, maybe 6, so it won't be that hard to find. And I do label all my videos so that they are, you know exactly what the tutorial is. So, okay, now let's see. With the increase, you go up in, wrap around, pull through, but keep everything on there. Now you go down in through the back of the stitch, wrap around, pull up through and off, and now instead of the customary 1 with your knit, you've got 2 on there, and then you just knit across to your last stitch. And I'm showing how to increase on a knit row because I found that it is so much easier to increase on a knit row, especially if you're a beginner. And as I've said before in my videos, don't be afraid to frog if you drop a stitch and you don't know how to fix it. It will be annoying later on once you get any kind of length, but hang in there, because I've been knitting for, how long have I been knitting for? Like at least over 30 years I've been knitting. Used to make scarves. I have knitted an Afghan big enough to fit on a queen size bed. It doesn't hang over the edges, but it does fit on there. And that one took me a while. Took me about 2-3 years to do it, but you start with 300 stitches casting on. So, and those bigger projects absolutely necessary to sit there and put them on the circular needle. I don't usually sit and knit like this, so this part's driving me nuts because it's right in front of where I'm looking. But yeah, so we're just knitting straight across, and then at the end of the row here, when you do that second increase, you should have 52 stitches. And we are going to do 10 rows of this knit, and it should keep the project from rolling up on you like the other shawl I was making for my sister. The bottom wasn't too bad, but when I got to the top I didn't garter enough rows. And that's garter, G-A-R-T-E-R, and my top rolled on me, so now I'm having problems with the crocheted border. So last stitch, up through, wrap around, pull through, and then, okay, fingers work with me please, down through, wrap around, pull up through and off, and that will give you your 52 stitches. You should have 52 stitches on. Okay. Now this row row number 4 is just a straight knit across. So no increase. And it's just a straight knit across. This will give you a little bit more gradual and less sharp as we go up through the pattern. So yes, we're just knitting this row. And I hope you're having luck with this pattern. I purposely, being my first actual knitting project video, I kept it simple. Knitting is just my break from crochet a lot, especially if I still want to work with yarn and I'm tired of crocheting, or I'm just like, I don't know what I want to be doing. I just need that break. I will knit so that it just clears my mind, and then I pick up my crochet and I get busy with it again. So yes, I am hoping that you can see what I'm doing. This is generally about as fast as I actually knit. I am going a little bit slower, but not much. So at the end of this row, you should still have 52 stitches on there. And if you don't do the increases on this, what you'll get is a nice rectangular, you could turn it into a rectangular shawl if you prefer. Just don't do the increases. Okay, so now we have finished row 4, and always try and keep this yarn on this side, because the more this gets filled up, it's just going to hang up on you. Let's see if I can. So on your holding side, let's see if I can do this without it being blurry. Flip it up. It should look something like that. Just all this just knit back and forth here. Okay. Now, row number 5 is the increase row. So that was up and in, wrap around, pull through, down through, wrap around, up through, and off. And you'll end up with your, whoops, sorry, I may have been off camera for that. Two on your hook, on your needle there. And then knit across, same as you did for row 4 and row 3. And then at the last stitch, right here on your end, this is blurring, this last stitch, that's the one that you will be doing your increase. I'm going to pause here and finish this row, and then I'll meet you at the end. Okay, now we're back, and then we're going to do the final increase for the row, and this should give you 54. I really should have this written down on row 54. So yeah, 52 and then 54. And then row 6 is just knitting straight across. the same as row 4. There we go, straighten everything up. But what you should be noticing now that we've done a second increase is that your, I have the camera angled down, your work should be starting to angle a bit. It's not a very good. Let's see. Okay, you can see it better on this end. If it'll cooperate, behave yourself. That it's going this way. Here. Okay, and so you just straight knit across, no increase here. With this, you're just knitting. And the little dance between the holding needle and the working needle. And just crochet across. And then that's where you find you got a knot. So I'm going to pause here, deal with my knot, and finish the row. Okay, so we're back now with row number 7. And you should have 54 stitches on here after row number 6. And we're doing the increase. So all the odd number rows are going to be your increase rows. So do, and and then back here. Across here. And so all the odd number rows, like I said, they are the increase rows, and they grow up by 2. So you start with 50, and now you've got 54, and you're working on 56. Okay, and don't forget to increase on both ends. And knit straight through the row, because what we're doing is we are working on the border row, on the border part of the bottom and the sides of this flat bottomed knit shawl. And I do welcome you to this summer project, and I'm hoping that by September I have this sucker finished. So I will have it all of October, November, and December, and January, February, and into March to be able to use it as an alternate to the big flat bottom. I will try and take pictures. Here, I'll just make a note of that at the top. Take pics of both shawls to include in the video with this video, so you can see. The big crocheted one was, I was using up yarn, so it was for that one. So it's multicolors, and will help you see that all colors go together, that they all can go together. So I'm getting close to finishing up row number 7 here, and getting our 56 stitches. And as I've said before, use whatever yarn, whatever needle size you like. I went up because This Red Heart Comfort is a little heavier than some of the other number 4s. And here we are with the increase. Make sure we got 56. And so I went up so I could get this looser feel to it, because I didn't want it tight. So, and as you can, now you can see, there we go, that we are getting this gradual slope. It's being poopy. Pull towards you. There you go. Yeah, you can see the slope of the thing. So row number 8 is just a knit row, and you'll want to have 56 stitches after that row. And number 9 is an increase, do exactly as rows 3, 5, and 7. Row 10 is a knit, and I will okay, I'm looking at my notes. So row 10 is a knit. Row 11 is the increase row, so we're stopping at row 7, so knit row 8, increase row 9, knit row 10, increase row 11, and that's where I will come back to you, is at the end of row 11. Okay, I finished row 11. 60 stitches is what's on there now, and you definitely can see the it's flopping on me. You can definitely see the slant on it now, and that'll be on both sides. Now row 12 is where we start the purl row, and we get a different kind of feel of things, and it will be flat on one side instead of bumpy on both sides. Okay, so you start with row 12 with 10 knitted stitches. So you knit 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And it doesn't always hurt to just go back and count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah. And in this bag right here is the summer crochet project. Go check that out in Crochet Corner. We're making an Afghan, a sampler Afghan in that playlist, and that was Crochet Corner. So now we bring our yarn to do the purl. We bring our yarn towards ourselves. We go down into the stitch in front of ourselves, wrap around and out, and then you just do this same stitch over and over again till you get to the last 10 stitches on your holding needle. So in my case, that would be in the left hand. That would be this hand here, ring finger. And so yes, down and in, up, through and off, and you'll get a purl stitch. So yes, we're on row 12, if you've been following along and been having success. You're on row 12 now. And I really do hope you've been having success with this. So down through, wrap around, up through and off. Down through, wrap around, up through and off. And just continue to do that, like I said, till you get to the last 10 stitches, making sure you're being careful to not pull too tight to make your stitching tight, because that's where purl really sucks. If you get these loops here, on the thing are too tight, it is really hard to get that needle in and under like you need. So there we go. Across, and we're purling across to the last 10 stitches. Yeah. Okay. And this is where you could use a stitch marker. You could go and pre-count out your 10 stitches and figure out where it is that you need to go. I usually just get to about like this point, and then I count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I have 4. That leaves me with 4 more purl ones. So to do. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then a quick count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we're going to take this to go back to knitting. We're going to take this yarn and pull it back over so it's behind you, and then you go up through, wrap around and down through, up through, wrap around and down through, up through, wrap around and down through, and such forth to, oh, I messed this up. Now we're going to watch me, because what you want to do is actually, I'm going to fix this. Okay, yeah, so it's it's 10 stitches on the front, and then, oh no, that's right, never mind, sorry. So yes, we want to do the 10 across. I'm tired, so I'm mixing up my my regular rows with my increased rows. Okay, and that should be the 10 there. So on row 12, knit 10, do purl all the way across to the last 10 stitches, leaving those, bring your yarn forward, and now we're on row 13. Which is our increase row, and it is just a straight, simple knit row. So up through, wrap around, back down through the back there, wrap around and pull out, and then just knit straight across to your last stitch, like you were doing before with the increase rows. And remember, increase rows are done on the odd row, and you'll begin to see why as we go through. You should already be able to see the little bit of the magic that's happening when you go through in this row here. And I did it again. I purl tighter than I knit. I'm a little bit looser handed on the knit, but my stitches are still easy to knit up into, so I'm good there. It just makes the work feel a little tighter. So I'll show you here in a second. As we're going along, I hope you'll be able to see I'm using the red color. Is see against itself? No, not really, not yet. Oh, well, maybe a little bit if I bring it in. You can see that because you did this purl stitch where you were working in the back stitches back here, that this is now flat here on this 13th row where you're just knitting straight across. Because what we're doing is stocking knit, and it puts all the bumpies are now going to be in the back except on the sides of your work. So there. Sorry, husband's at dialysis today, so I don't turn my phones off when that way if anyone needs to get a hold of me, I can pause video and do the work. Not do the work. I'm available, so I can feel that I'm getting a little tight here. If you feel like you're getting a little tight, just pull out some of your yarn and leave it loose so that it helps you to knit a little looser. Because I find if you're always pulling tight from your skein or ball or hank of yarn, whatever you're doing, you'll end up, your stitches will definitely be tighter. And that will make your life a little bit miserable when you're trying to knit. So that's one of those helpful hints when it comes to knitting, is to, and even with crochet, if you're constantly having to yank with every stitch, then you are going to get frustrated and it's going to be tight. If you are a tighter knitter or crocheter, go up a needle size. I have found that it doesn't affect the sizing a lot, because if you're doing tight, what generally is you're really yanking, you're pulling on this instead of just holding it and bringing it up and over. Like, you can hopefully see as I'm knitting how much I have on my finger. I'm not sitting right here and doing right here a lot. It's not like right up against and then right here, because that will pull your work right. I grab down here, wrap around. It's also easier on my wrist as I have arthritis. So we're working on that increased row. I had to back up a little bit because I split my yarn. And now we're working into the edge where we're creating that border on the edge so that this will lay flat. Okay, and what you're wanting to do is, we're just knitting straight across, continue to knit straight across. Till you get to that last stitch. And then you do your increase. Do. And there we go. And yeah, let's see, here, hold it. There we go. You can see where it's angling down there, you can start to see when you look at yours that it's getting flat in your stitches on the front side. And that's how you'll know the front from the back. The front is got this flat, and you can start to see it now. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a second before we start. And you should have 62 stitches at the end of this row. And I will be back in a second to do row 14. I'm just going to pause as my husband has messaged me. Okay, pause for a second just to let him know that I got the message. Okay, so for this row, we've done the increase row. Now we knit 10 stitches. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we bring our yarn towards ourselves so that we can do the purl row, and that's knit up towards yourself there, so down and in and up and off, keeping all the bumpies in the back. You'll also note that too your purl bumpies are maybe smaller. Mine are smaller, but that's okay. Part of that for me is because I have a tendency to pull a little bit more when I'm purling, and so I end up with that tighter stitch. There we go. And so yes, we're working this purl stitch here, and you can really start to see now where this pattern is going, hopefully you can see where it's flat. Yeah, you can, in there, kind of curving in there, and there we go. So the pattern is starting to really show here on the 14th row. Okay, and then we're purling. And now if I haven't messed this up, when you're getting down to the last bit here, to maintain the pattern and to make sure that on the front your knit goes diagonally to follow the edge, what you want to do is, you'll be doing the increase on the last 9 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 instead of 10. The 10 is where you do the increase. So this last stitch is 9 and 10. So I'm hoping I did it right on this end. Not too much of a problem if you boober that. It shouldn't affect too much. You'll have a little bit of a hiccup. So okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8. Need to purl 1 more, and then pull the yarn forward, and then knit the 9, till you come to the end here, and then you do your increase. And this is why I have problem, and this is why I'm tired. Okay, so I'm going to be a little short on this side because I'm not on an increase row, I'm on the knit purl row. So it's knit 10, purl across, and then knit in your last 10 stitches. And so this side's going to be a little bit short, so if you followed me with that, we will be doing an increase here because I misled you. So row 14, knit 10, purl across to the last 10 stitches, and then knit those last 10 stitches. And then row 15 is the increase row. So you'll want to count your increase as stitch number 1 and 2. Oops, I'm a little twisted here. Oh, there we go. So, increase. There we go. So 1, 2. And then just count, knit straight across. Knit straight across there. So row 14 was knit 10 and then purl straight across and then knit your last 10 stitches. Pull myself out some yarn. Go. And I will be stopping here at the end of this row, but you'll definitely be able to see your pattern with the purl stitching, that flat side. If you are using a variegated yarn, you're going to notice how pretty that it is done with knitting, because your stitches lay so much flatter than with crochet. And you'll get this really cool pattern going with the variegated yarn on the flat stitches. So here we go. So knitting straight across. On the 15th row, I'm ending with the increase row. I find it sometimes easier to do that. So all things being equal, you should have 64 stitches on there. If you have 65, don't worry about it. It shouldn't affect the pattern too much. Just pick up the rhythm of the pattern where you left off. Every odd row is now the increase row, and the pattern is worked on the even row. So we're knitting straight across to the last stitch. Pulling myself some yarn. Don't usually have my yarn over on this side. Makes it a little awkward. And I found that that is one of the ways to kind of keep your knitting a little bit loose, is to pull some up in your lap, because you do, you're not yanking all the time. And since I'm right-handed, I usually pull from this side or right in front of me, but it is, off to the right is generally best. So almost done row 15 as we knit across here. And then we do an increase in this row right here, in this last stitch, pardon me, and we're off, and that's the end of row 15. I apologize that my tutorials always seem so long, but if I hold it up, you can see that it is. We've got this gradual nice little angle going on, and you can see that it really is starting to get flat in the middle and across, but that we've also building this sort of really cool border on the edge that as you go you'll see it'll follow the edge up and in. So the only other tip, and I put my box away, that I would suggest if you're stopping here with me, that you wrap your elastic band around your ends, so that when you put this in your bag or your box or whatever, if it gets jostled or stuff, sometimes it can, and especially as it's getting bigger, and you'll see it is definitely getting bigger on your needles. There's the front side where you can see there. I'm getting some there. It'll just help keep stuff on your knitting needles rather than just shoving these into the ball, stabbing your ball, or into your work. I'm going to do that right now because I put my sewing box away, and I'll turn this up. Whoops, sorry. Jiggle the camera. And I want to thank you for joining me on the summer craft project, and I hope it's simple and easy and that you haven't been having any problems with it. Feel free to leave comments in the comments section and let me know how you're doing with this, and I really appreciate your company. And I hope, if you've never knitted before, that this pattern, that this project, the summer project, this slow and easy, just work it through the summer, helps bring a joy of knitting to your life, because I find it terribly relaxing when I'm just doing a simple pattern like that. I look forward to sharing more fancier patterns. My stitch book has all sorts of stitches in there, and I'm really interested in trying. So from me, Ray, here on C is for Crone, crochet, knitting, and more, I bid you adieu, and happy stitching, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.